And when I
Well,
spoke to Ileana a year ago, there was something that we spoke about at the very end of our conversation. And we're doing this again today because I want to really reinforce how our world works. One of the last things Ileana and I discussed on her show a year ago was ELF at the South Pole Station. And she had brought it up.
yeah, I was like a dog with a bone on you in those texts about it, and you were reticent. You didn't want to talk about it on the show. And I said, ELF is not classified, Eric. It's public. It's available to read about, talk about it, because it's an interesting technology that
Absolutely.
submarines use. And
Absolutely.
they use them as also antennas in the North Pole and
Those
in
are all
Antarctica.
true statements. They are.
Because I researched what the heck is that. I didn't know what that was. You mentioned the term ELN,
ELF.
right? ELF.
Yep. Extra low frequency.
ELF. You mentioned that. I'm like, that has to do with submarines and submarine communication. Because I'd heard
Very
about it
complex
somewhere.
technology that could theoretically do many more dastardly things.
Oh
So a
yeah.
year ago, when you brought that question to me, I was reticent to answer it because I would say that I was a little bit more in the know to the potentials. And now, a year later, I would like everybody to educate themselves on what ELF can do and ask, did we not just go through a year worth of ELF weapon exposure? When we look at all of the possible things that people say ELF could do. If a year ago I said, hey, folks, get ready, you're about to get screwed by ELF, everyone would have said I was crazy.
Does it amplify 5G technology?
It does a million things. It makes people angry at each other. It can cause all kinds of mental impacts. Let's just put it that way. So when you are looking around at your friends, family, neighbors, and all the people for the last year, and you say, you know, they're really not acting like themselves. ELF. This is the science behind this stuff, that there are machines that can be used to promote a mindset or remove a mindset. And I would say over the course of the last year, I think that there are other Americans, other patriots, other good intentioned people that I would say were acting out of their minds.
Yeah, or it's ELF, or it's being cooped up at your house and not being able to go anywhere because of a certain thing that's happening in the world
Or
right
those
now.
are two components being used together in conjunction.
Yeah, yeah, because ELF is bad on its own, but when you make somebody sit at home constantly and not see the light of day, that's another
All the above.
thing that,
All battlefield tactics.
yeah, that really screws your mind. Makes you wonder, what the heck am I doing here?
You don't
Tapping
just go
away
to
at this
war with a
keyboard.
pistol or a rifle or a tank
Yes.
or you use everything. So ELF is just a very unknown weapon in the arsenal of mind control and mass control. It's on the list of possibilities. Yes, it can communicate with the submarine, but there's other things that it can do. And it's also just a cog in a machine when you say that we have ELF that can do this, and we have HARP that can do this. And when we start putting things together, there are questions to be asked. I certainly don't have all of the answers, but I suggest that people start looking into these things because, as we've heard time and time again, everybody goes, well, if people knew, if this was going on, somebody would have said something.
Why?
What?
Why
I've said
mention it?
something, folks. I've told you that the ELF is on at the South Pole Station. I'm not going to suggest to you how much that could negatively impact your life because guess what? I've learned that me breathing out my words into the world is less effective than people doing the research on their own. So look at what ELF can do. I said it a year ago. I'm saying it. It depends on how they want to use it. It's a passive device or an active device. If they want to listen, they can listen. It's a
Because
standard
I've
antenna array. If
been
you want to listen with an antenna,
noticing
you can listen. If you want to apply power to it, you can transmit. So now when you start studying what an ELF antenna and transmitter array can do, it really boils down to that specific unit, how big of it, how much power is it putting out, what frequencies are you operating on. But all of these things, I can't say that it can't do those things. All I can say is that understanding the technology, that the sky is the limit and all possibility exists always. And if the potential exists for something terrible to be done with it, I would say that we should look into it, because time and time again, we have seen that when terrible things exist and we look at the people that have the control of these terrible things, we just simply ask, are you using it and why? And then we find out they are using it and the reasons aren't that good. I would suggest that there are a multitude of things that could engage the Schumann resonance to mess with it.
Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is 2019, MIT sent a laser thought into somebody else's brain for 1 minute. They transmitted what they wanted the other person to hear, and it was without any radio, it was without any frequency, it was just a laser beam that was shot directly into the person's brain. Yep. And it's voice of God technology that can be done on Earth.
Yep.
There's millions of people out there who are called targeted individuals, where they hear voices that are not their own, telling them to do god-awful things or making them sick.
Well, V2K is carried over the Wi-Fi. So anywhere you have a Wi-Fi signal, you can be subjected to V2K. That has been the bane of my existence from the time it was first rolled out in approximately 1980 until I got the cap in 2016. And when I have it on, I don't hear the shit. It was a constant repeat of, you're ugly, you're fat, you have no quality of life, nobody likes you, nobody ever will like you, you might as well kill yourself.